Jack Monroe tightened his grip on the rusted wrench as he leaned over a pile of scrap metal. The air around him was thick with dust, and the dim light from the overhead lamps did little to brighten the gloomy workspace. Outpost 47 wasn't much more than a forgotten rock floating in the endless void of space, but it was home now, or at least prison. Jack had been sent here 2 years ago, after being framed for sabotaging an interstellar freighter. He hadn't caused the explosion that killed 30 people, but no one back on Earth cared about the truth. Across the room, Laura Hayes crouched beside another heap of junk, her hands moving quickly as she sorted through twisted metal and broken circuits. She was younger than Jack, maybe in her late 20s, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Like him, she'd been dumped here after being accused of something she didn't do. Her crime: allegedly stealing classified tech from a government lab. Lies, all of it. But out here, no one listened to excuses. "What do you think this is?" Laura asked suddenly, holding up a strange piece of curved metal. It shimmered faintly under the weak light, its surface etched with patterns that looked almost alien. Jack squinted at it. Probably just some old satellite part. Junk like this floats around outposts all the time. "No," Laura said firmly, shaking her head. "This isn't human-made. Look closer." Reluctantly, Jack stepped closer. As he examined the object, he realized she was right. The markings weren't anything he'd seen before, not Earth design, not even anything from known alien races. A chill ran down his spine. "Where'd you find this?" "Over there." Laura pointed toward a dark corner of the workshop, where a massive mound of debris lay untouched. "There's more where that came from." Curiosity got the better of them both. Together, they began digging through the pile, uncovering fragments of what seemed to be a ship, something far older and more advanced than anything they'd ever encountered. The pieces were buried deep, as if someone had deliberately tried to hide them. By the time they uncovered enough to see the outline of a hull, hours had passed, and their muscles ached from hauling heavy chunks of metal. This is incredible," Laura whispered, running her fingers along the smooth edge of a panel. "It's like nothing I've ever seen." Jack nodded slowly, his mind racing. If they could put this thing together, maybe they could leave this godforsaken place. Maybe they could prove their innocence, or at least escape the life sentence hanging over their heads. But it wouldn't be easy. Word spread fast when Ben Carter and Mia Thompson joined them later that evening. Ben was a former pilot who'd lost everything after being falsely accused of smuggling weapons. Mia, quiet and reserved, had once been a rising star in astrophysics until her research was stolen by colleagues who framed her for espionage. Each of them brought skills to the table, but trust didn't come easily among exiles. "We're really doing this?" Ben asked, eyeing the scattered parts skeptically. "Building a ship out of garbage." "It's not garbage," Laura shot back. "It's potential." Mia adjusted her glasses, studying the largest piece of wreckage. "If we can figure out how to power it, we might actually stand a chance." Jack crossed his arms, looking at the group. They were misfits, criminals in the eyes of the law. But they were also survivors, and survival meant taking risks. "All right," he said finally. "Let's get to work." As they started piecing the mysterious ship together, none of them knew what they were truly building, or the chaos it would bring to the galaxy. For now, though, hope burned brighter than it had in years. The days turned into weeks as Jack, Laura, Ben, and Mia worked tirelessly on the mysterious ship. The outpost's dimly lit workshop became their second home, filled with the constant hum of tools and the clanging of metal against metal. Every piece they uncovered seemed to hold a new mystery. Some parts were jagged and broken, while others gleamed as if untouched by time. It was clear that whoever, or whatever, had built this ship had technology far beyond anything humanity possessed. Jack spent most of his time trying to make sense of the alien systems. He'd always been good with machines, but this was different. The controls didn't respond to buttons or switches like Earth tech did. Instead, they pulsed faintly, almost alive, waiting for something, or someone, to activate them. It's like it's testing us, he muttered one evening, rubbing his temples in frustration. Laura, meanwhile, focused on the physical assembly. She had a natural talent for fitting odd shapes together, turning scraps into functional pieces. Her hands moved quickly, welding panels and reinforcing weak spots. But even she struggled when entire sections refused to align properly. "Maybe we're missing something," she said one day, staring at a gap between two large hull plates. "Like a key or a code." Mia sat nearby, poring over sketches she'd made of the strange symbols etched into the ship's surface. She believed they held clues about how the vessel worked. "These markings aren't random," she explained, pointing to one of her drawings. "They repeat in patterns, like a language. If we can decode them, we might figure out how to power it up." Ben wasn't much help with the technical stuff, but he kept everyone motivated. When tensions ran high, he cracked jokes or reminded the group why they were doing this in the first place. "Freedom, remember," he'd say with a grin. "We're not just building a ship, we're building our ticket out of here." Despite their determination, progress was slow. Supplies were scarce, and everything had to be scavenged or improvised. Tools broke often, forcing them to repair old ones instead of buying new ones, which wasn't an option anyway. Food rations were meager, leaving them tired and irritable. Still, they pressed on, driven by the promise of escape. One night, as the others slept, Laura stayed behind to examine a glowing crystal embedded in the ship's core. It pulsed softly, casting eerie shadows across the room. She reached out hesitantly, her fingers brushing its surface. Suddenly, a surge of energy shot through her arm, making her stumble back with a gasp. Lights flickered across the ship's interior, and a low hum filled the air. "What did you do?" Jack demanded, rushing in after hearing the noise. "I don't know," Laura stammered, still shaken. "I just touched it, and look." The ship's systems began activating one by one. Panels lit up, screens displayed unreadable text, and faint vibrations echoed through the hull. For a moment, they all stood frozen, watching in awe as the ancient machine came to life. "This changes everything," Mia whispered, her voice trembling with excitement. "If we can harness this energy." But their celebration was short-lived. The next morning, Commander Ryan Scott arrived at the workshop unannounced. A tall man with cold eyes and a reputation for cruelty, Scott oversaw Outpost 47 with an iron fist. He rarely visited the lower levels unless he suspected trouble, and today his suspicions were confirmed. "What's going on here?" he barked, eyeing the half-assembled ship. "This isn't authorized work." Jack stepped forward, trying to sound calm. "Just a little project to pass the time, sir. Nothing serious." Scott narrowed his eyes. "Nothing serious. You expect me to believe that pile of junk is harmless." Before anyone could respond, Mia accidentally knocked over a tool, drawing Scott's attention to the glowing crystal. His expression darkened. "That's classified material. Where did you get it?" Tension crackled in the air as the crew exchanged nervous glances. They knew they couldn't explain without risking severe punishment, or worse. Scott grabbed his communicator. "Guards, get down here now." "We have to move," Jack hissed under his breath. "Now." Without hesitation, the four scrambled aboard the incomplete ship, sealing the hatch behind them. As alarms blared outside, Jack took the makeshift control panel and activated the engines. The Eclipse roared to life, shaking violently as it lifted off the ground for the first time. They were running blind, with no plan and no destination. But for the first time in years, they felt free. The Eclipse shot out of the workshop, its engines roaring as it tore through the thin atmosphere of Outpost 47. Jack gripped the makeshift controls tightly, his knuckles white as he struggled to keep the ship steady. The vessel wasn't fully built yet, and every movement felt unpredictable, like trying to tame a wild animal. Behind them, alarms blared, and spotlights from the outpost's guard towers swept across the dark expanse of space. "Hold on," Jack shouted over the noise. "This thing isn't exactly ready for a smooth ride." Laura clung to the edge of her seat, her heart pounding. "Just get us out of here, Jack. We can fix the rest later." Ben sat nearby, gripping the back of a chair as the ship rocked violently. "You call this flying? Feels more like falling with style." Mia ignored their banter, her eyes glued to a small screen displaying readings from the glowing crystal in the ship's core. "The energy levels are spiking," she said urgently. "If we don't stabilize them soon, the whole system could overload." "Great," Jack muttered. "One crisis at a time. Okay." Outside, 2 patrol ships emerged from the outpost, their weapons charging. Commander Scott's voice crackled over the comms. "Stop immediately, or we will open fire." "No thanks," Jack replied dryly, flipping a switch that activated one of the Eclipse's mysterious systems. A shimmering field enveloped the ship, making it nearly invisible to the naked eye. The patrol ships hesitated, their targeting systems unable to lock onto the cloaked vessel. "What was that?" Laura asked, staring at the now transparent walls of the cockpit. "I think we just found the stealth mode," Jack said with a grin. Not bad for a first test flight. But their relief was short-lived. One of the patrol ships fired blindly, its shots narrowly missing the Eclipse. The impact jolted the crew, throwing Ben off balance. "They're not giving up," he yelled. "We need to lose them," Maya said, pointing to a dense cluster of asteroids ahead. "Fly into the field. It'll confuse their sensors." Jack nodded and steered the Eclipse toward the rocky maze. The ship darted between massive boulders, its agility surprising even him. For a moment, it seemed like they might escape, but then one of the patrol ships managed to follow them inside. "This is insane," Laura shouted as debris flew past the windows. "We're going to crash." "Trust me," Jack snapped, his focus unshakable. He pulled hard on the controls, spinning the Eclipse around a jagged asteroid. The pursuing ship tried to mimic the maneuver but clipped a rock, sending it spiraling out of control. "Yes," Ben cheered, pumping his fist. "Take that, tin cans." Before they could celebrate, however, another feature of the Eclipse activated unexpectedly. A panel lit up, revealing what looked like a weapon interface. Without warning, a beam of bright blue energy shot out from the ship's front, striking the second patrol ship. The blast sent it careening into an asteroid, where it exploded in a fiery burst. The crew stared in stunned silence. Did we just do that?" Laura whispered, her voice trembling. "It must be part of the ship's defense system," Maya said, her eyes wide with awe. "We didn't even know it had weapons." Jack let out a shaky laugh. "Well, I guess we're armed and dangerous now." As they finally cleared the asteroid field, the Eclipse's cloak disengaged, leaving them alone in the vast emptiness of space. For the first time since fleeing Outpost 47, the crew allowed themselves to breathe. "That was close," Ben said, slumping into a chair. "Too close." Jack glanced at the others, his expression serious. "This changes everything. If we can figure out how to use this ship properly, no one will be able to stop us." Laura nodded slowly, her mind racing. "But we're not just running anymore." Word about the Eclipse spread faster than the crew could have imagined. Within days, rumors of a mysterious ship capable of cloaking and firing devastating energy blasts reached every corner of the galaxy. Bounty hunters whispered about it in seedy space bars. Mercenaries plotted to capture it for themselves. Even Earth's central government took notice, seeing the Eclipse not just as a threat, but as a prize worth any cost. Jack and his crew tried to stay hidden, hopping from one remote system to another. They scavenged supplies where they could and avoided populated areas, knowing that drawing attention would only bring trouble. But staying under the radar was easier said than done. The Eclipse wasn't built for subtlety. Its sleek design and glowing core made it stand out like a beacon in the darkness. One evening, while orbiting a barren moon to recharge the ship's systems, Laura noticed something on the scanners. "We've got company," she said, her voice tense. A fleet of 3 heavily armed ships was approaching fast. Who are they? Jack asked, leaning over her shoulder to study the readings. No markings, Laura replied. Could be bounty hunters. Or worse, Mia added quietly. She had been monitoring communications and picked up chatter about a large reward being offered for the Eclipse's capture or destruction. Ben groaned, slumping into a chair. Can't we catch a break? We haven't even figured out half this ship's systems yet. We'll deal with it, Jack said firmly, though his jaw tightened with worry. He turned to the others. Laura, keep an eye on those ships. Mia, see if you can boost the cloak. It's our best shot at avoiding a fight. Ben, prep whatever weapons we've got online. The crew scrambled to their tasks, working together with practiced efficiency. As the enemy ships closed in, the Eclipse's cloak flickered to life again, masking its presence. For a moment, it seemed like they might slip away unnoticed. But then, one of the pursuing ships fired blindly, its shots striking dangerously close. They're guessing our position, Laura shouted, panic creeping into her voice. Jack gripped the controls tightly. We can't stay here. Hold on. He pushed the engines to full throttle, sending the Eclipse hurtling toward a nearby asteroid belt. The rocky maze offered some cover, but navigating it at high speed was risky. Rocks loomed suddenly in their path, forcing Jack to swerve wildly. The ship shuddered with each near miss, and alarms blared as stress levels rose. This is suicide, Ben yelled, clutching his seat. We're going to get torn apart. We don't have a choice, Jack snapped back. If we stop, they'll tear us apart anyway. Mia worked frantically at her console, trying to reroute power to the weapons. I think I can activate another one of those energy cannons, she said, but it'll drain the cloak. Do it, Jack ordered without hesitation. We need to take them out before they call for backup. With a deep breath, Mia activated the weapon. A brilliant beam of light shot out from the Eclipse, slicing through one of the pursuing ships like paper. The explosion lit up the darkness, leaving debris floating in its wake. The remaining 2 ships scattered, clearly caught off guard by the Eclipse's firepower. Got one. Ben cheered, punching the air. But their victory was short-lived. One of the surviving ships launched missiles, forcing Jack to pull the Eclipse into a sharp dive. The impact shook the entire vessel, throwing everyone off balance. Sparks flew from a damaged panel, and smoke filled the cockpit. We're hit, Laura cried, pointing to a flashing warning on her screen. Shields are down to 30%. Keep moving, Jack barked, his voice steady despite the chaos. We're not done yet. Using every ounce of skill he had, Jack maneuvered the Eclipse behind a massive asteroid, using it as cover. The remaining ships circled cautiously, unsure of where their prey had gone. For a few precious moments, there was silence. Then, without warning, the Eclipse's systems surged with energy. The glowing crystal in the core pulsed brightly, and the ship's weapons charged automatically. Before anyone could react, another blast erupted from the Eclipse, destroying one of the last 2 ships. The final ship retreated, its pilot clearly unwilling to risk further damage. As it disappeared into the void, the crew let out a collective sigh of relief. We did it, Laura said softly, still staring at the now empty space outside. For now, Jack replied, his tone grim. But this is just the beginning. If Earth knows what we've got, they'll send everything they've got after us. Mia nodded, her expression thoughtful. Then we'd better learn how to use it. And fast. The Eclipse drifted silently through the cold emptiness of space, its crew battered but alive. Jack leaned back in the pilot's seat, his hand still gripping the controls even though the danger had passed. His mind raced with questions. Who were those ships? Were they working for Earth's government, or was someone else already hunting them? One thing was certain. Word about the Eclipse was spreading, and it wouldn't be long before bigger threats came knocking. Laura sat nearby, inspecting the damage to the ship's systems. Smoke still lingered in the cockpit, and a few panels sparked faintly. "We got lucky this time," she said, her voice tinged with frustration. "But we can't keep running like this. Sooner or later, we're going to run into someone we can't outfight." Ben nodded, rubbing a bruise on his arm from when he'd been thrown against the wall during the battle. "Yeah, and I'm not exactly excited about testing how far this ship can take a beating." Mia, meanwhile, was hunched over her console, studying readings from the glowing crystal at the Eclipse's core. Her brow furrowed as she scrolled through lines of alien symbols. "There's something strange happening here," she said suddenly, her tone urgent. "The energy levels are fluctuating. It's like the ship is trying to communicate." "What do you mean, communicate?" Jack asked, turning to face her. "I don't know yet," Mia admitted. "But these patterns, it's almost like a language. Maybe the ship has an eye, or some kind of intelligence built into it." Before anyone could respond, a low hum filled the air. The lights dimmed momentarily, and then a holographic figure appeared in the center of the cockpit. It was humanoid but clearly not human, its form shimmering with an otherworldly glow. Its eyes glowed faintly, and its voice echoed in a deep, resonant tone. "I am Kale," the figure said, "Guardian of the Eclipse." The crew stared in stunned silence. Finally, Laura broke the quiet. "Did that just happen?" "Apparently so," Ben muttered, wide-eyed. Jack cleared his throat, trying to sound calm. "Who, or what, are you?" "I am the consciousness of the Fourth Ennis," Kale replied. "This vessel was created by my people, designed to protect the galaxy from extinction-level threats." "Extinction-level threats," Maya repeated, leaning forward. "What kind of threats?" Kale hesitated, as if weighing how much to reveal. "The Zenari, an ancient enemy thought long gone. Parasitic beings that consume entire civilizations. They are waking again, drawn by the activation of the eclipse." The room fell silent as the weight of Cal's words sank in. Jack finally spoke. "So, we've basically woken up the boogeymen of the universe." "In simpler terms, yes," Cal said. "But you also hold the key to stopping them." "The eclipse was built not only as a weapon, but as a guardian." Laura crossed her arms, frowning. "Great, so now we're supposed to save the galaxy too. We're just a bunch of outcasts trying to survive." "You have no choice," Cal replied. "If the Zenari are allowed to spread unchecked, nothing will remain. Not your world, nor any others." Ben groaned, sinking into his chair. "Why does it always have to be us?" Mia looked thoughtful, her fingers tapping nervously on her console. "Maybe this is why we found the eclipse. Maybe it chose us for a reason." Jack shook his head, standing up. "Whether it chose us or not, we need to figure out how to use it properly. Fast, because if Earth sends another fleet after us, or worse, if these Zenari show up, we won't last long." Cal's form flickered slightly. "I will assist where I can, but time is short. Prepare yourselves." With that, the hologram vanished, leaving the crew alone with their thoughts. For a moment, no one spoke. The enormity of what they'd just learned hung heavy in the air. "So," Ben said finally, breaking the tension, "saving the galaxy, huh? Guess we should probably start practicing our hero poses." Despite his attempt at humor, the mood remained somber. Jack glanced at each of them, seeing determination mixed with fear. "All right," he said firmly. "Let's get to work. We've got a ship to master, and a galaxy to protect." As the eclipse continued its journey through the stars, the crew knew their lives would never be the same. They weren't just fugitives anymore. They were guardians, whether they liked it or not. The eclipse's next test came sooner than anyone expected. General Patricia Lane, Earth's most ruthless military leader, wasn't about to let the rogue ship slip through her fingers. She assembled a massive fleet, 12 warships armed with cutting-edge weapons, and set a course for the eclipse's last known location. Her orders were clear: capture the ship or destroy it. Jack and his crew had been lying low near a remote nebula, using its colorful clouds to mask their presence. But even in hiding, they couldn't shake the feeling that trouble was closing in. Laura spent hours monitoring scanners, while Mia worked tirelessly to decode more of Cal's language. Ben, restless as always, paced the cockpit, muttering under his breath. "We're sitting ducks out here," he said finally, stopping to glare at Jack. "If they find us, we're done." "They won't find us," Jack replied, though his voice lacked confidence. He glanced at Laura. "Right." Laura hesitated, her fingers hovering over the controls. "I don't know. Their sensors are better than anything we've faced before. If they get close enough." Her words trailed off as alarms blared suddenly, piercing the quiet. Everyone froze. "They're here," Mia whispered, staring at her screen. The fleet had arrived, surrounding the nebula like predators circling prey. "Cloaks still active," Laura said quickly, her hands flying across the console. "But it won't hold forever against that many ships." Jack clenched his jaw. "Then we fight." The Eclipse emerged from the nebula, its sleek form shimmering faintly as the cloak disengaged. The fleet opened fire immediately, their lasers lighting up the darkness. Jack pushed the engines to full power, weaving the ship through a barrage of shots. The Eclipse moved like liquid, dodging blows that would have torn lesser vessels apart. "Shields are holding. For now," Laura shouted, her eyes glued to the readings. "But we can't keep this up." Mia activated one of the energy cannons, firing back at the nearest warship. The blast struck true, sending the enemy vessel spiraling into flames. Cheers erupted in the cockpit, but the victory was short-lived. Two more ships took its place, unleashing a relentless assault. Ben gripped the back of his chair, shouting encouragement. "Keep hitting them. We've got this." But the Eclipse was taking damage. Panels sparked, and the lights flickered ominously. Jack gritted his teeth, searching for a way to turn the tide. Then Cal's voice echoed through the cockpit. "Activate the core surge. It will disable their systems, but it may cost me." "What do you mean, cost you?" Jack demanded, panic rising in his chest. "I am tied to the Eclipse," Cal explained calmly. "Using the core surge will drain my energy. I cannot survive without it." "No," Mia protested, shaking her head. "We need you. You're helping us understand this ship." "There is no other option," Cal said simply. "Trust me." Jack hesitated, then nodded. "Do it." With a deep breath, Mia entered the command sequence. The glowing crystal at the ship's core pulsed violently, releasing a wave of energy that rippled outward. Every enemy ship in range went dark, their systems fried. The fleet floated helplessly, unable to move or fight back. Inside the Eclipse, the lights dimmed, and Cal's hologram flickered weakly. "My time grows short," he said softly. "Remember your purpose. Protect the innocent." And then he was gone. The crew sat in stunned silence, the weight of the sacrifice settling over them. Finally, Jack spoke, his voice steady despite the ache in his chest. "Cal gave us a chance. Let's not waste it." As the Eclipse soared away from the disabled fleet, the crew knew their journey was far from over. They had lost a guide but gained a mission. For the first time, they truly understood what it meant to be guardians of the stars. The Eclipse drifted into uncharted space, its crew quiet and reflective after the battle. Cal was gone, but his final words lingered in their minds. Protect the innocent. It wasn't just a mission. It was a responsibility they couldn't ignore. They had started this journey as outcasts, running from their pasts, but now they were something more. They were protectors. Jack stood at the helm, staring out at the endless sea of stars. The ship's systems hummed softly around him, a reminder of the power they carried, and the lives depending on them. "We've come a long way," he said finally, breaking the silence. "From forgotten criminals to whatever we are now." "Guardians," Laura replied, stepping up beside him. Her voice was calm but firm. "That's what Cal called us. And maybe he was right." Ben leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. Yeah, well, being a guardian sounds noble and all, but it doesn't exactly pay the bills, or keep us alive when the next fleet shows up. We'll figure it out, Maya said, looking up from her notes. She had spent hours studying the data Kale left behind, piecing together fragments of the Vorthanis knowledge. There's so much we still don't understand about this ship and the Zenari. But if we work together, we can learn. And we're not alone anymore, Laura added. People are starting to hear about us. Colonies that Earth ignores, rebels fighting against oppression. They're reaching out. Some even want to join us. Jack nodded thoughtfully. Then we build a network. Allies who can help us fight back, not just against Earth, but against anyone who tries to hurt the innocent. Over the following weeks, the eclipse became a symbol of hope for those who had none. Jack and his crew traveled from one struggling colony to another, offering protection and aid. They dismantled corrupt governors, drove off raiders, and exposed Earth's exploitation of distant worlds. Word spread quickly. The eclipse didn't care about politics or profit. It fought for justice. But the galaxy wasn't ready to let them rest. Reports began surfacing of strange sightings, ships moving without engines, entire populations vanishing overnight. The Zenari were stirring, and their trail led toward the heart of human territory. We knew this was coming, Jack said one evening as the crew gathered in the cockpit. Kale warned us. If we don't stop them, no one will. Laura placed a hand on his shoulder. Then we stopped them. Together. Mia adjusted her glasses, determination shining in her eyes. I've been analyzing Cal's data. There might be a way to use the eclipse's core energy to create a weapon strong enough to take down the Zenari hive mind. But it'll be dangerous. Ben smirked, though there was no humor in it. When has anything we do been safe? Preparations began immediately. The crew worked tirelessly, modifying the eclipse's systems and testing new strategies. They reached out to their growing network of allies, calling for support. Ships arrived from across the galaxy, their captains willing to stand with the legendary eclipse. When the day came, the eclipse led a ragtag fleet into the heart of the Zenari invasion. The battle was fierce, the odds overwhelming. But the eclipse shone brightest, its weapons cutting through the enemy like lightning. At the climax, Maya activated the core weapon, unleashing a pulse of energy that shattered the Zenari hive mind. The parasite ships collapsed, lifeless, and the threat was ended. As the dust settled, the galaxy watched in awe. The eclipse had done the impossible. Jack and his crew had become legends, not because they sought glory, but because they chose to fight for others. In the quiet aftermath, Jack looked out at the stars once more. Kale was right, he said softly. The galaxy needs guardians, and we're here to answer the call. The eclipse soared onward, ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. Their journey was far from over, but neither was their purpose.